Welcome back. Thank you for rejoining us after the short break. Excited to announce up next and to hand over to Jonathan Ruddick, Director at eleXsys Energy, joining us from Australia.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jonathan Ruddick, CCO and also Director at eleXsys Energy. We've been really looking forward to participating in this CleanEquity Monaco conference. I was planning on being there in person in March, but due to circumstances, that wasn't to be. We do, however, have Andrew Jennings and John Coates from eleXsys Energy at the conference in person, so please feel free to reach out to them. Our offering is the solution to removing the barrier to world electricity grids becoming 100% renewable. Our technology overcomes these barriers, is proven, and unleashes a tremendous market opportunity to become and facilitate the electricity utilities of the future. We are projecting a significant company value increase as we put the capital we are raising to work in the global markets and the business models I'll discuss today. I'm going to start with a video to get you across our technology.
When you fly into any city in the world, Rome, Paris, London, Los Angeles, New York, even Sydney, Australia, you look down and you see miles and miles of empty industrial and commercial rooftops, empty. Why don't they fill them up with solar? The electricity grid is one way. If you send energy backwards, it can only handle a little bit of that energy going backwards.
Pour régler le problème, il faudrait investir des milliards d'euros pour améliorer le réseau, ce qui impacterait directement la facture électrique.
It's one of the world's most troublesome, difficult electrical engineering problems there is, and we've solved it. eleXsys dynamically, independently solves the voltage problem created by sending energy backwards. And it does that with using this artificial intelligence. It's like a little mini brain sitting in your house or in your business. Harmonizes the grid, harmonizes electricity, so you can actually send it both ways down the same pipe. Recently, we've traveled the world, London, LA, Singapore, and people say, we don't have a problem. We put rooftop solar on, it gets accepted into the grid. Well, the problem we're experiencing here in Australia, because we're leading the world with how much rooftop solar is installed, will happen everywhere.
Since 2014, we have developed every aspect of hardware and software for eleXsys. The component we use for this technology is cutting edge like silicon carbide. It's built to last 20 years in extreme condition.
eleXsys is a revolutionary product, and it will certainly change the way we've been managing our grids for the last 100 years.
Previously, you had one or two coal-fired usually, or some sort of fossil fuel power station that was drawing power from a central source and then sending it to the point of consumption in cities.
We have the opportunity now to turn a large industrial building into an urban solar power plant. Even though they're small in comparison to a power plant, it doesn't take many buildings to get rid of those coal power stations.
eleXsys is actually a multifunctional device. We talk predominantly about its ability to be able to fix a voltage problem and therefore allowing the export of electricity to the grid. But it does many other things as well. It's kind of like a smartphone. So you can program that device, the charging batteries, ensuring the export of energy to the grid, trading. So we actually have trading algorithms, so we trade directly with the Australian energy market. Our flagship project to demonstrate what we're doing is with Ikea. The system that we have is a large battery, so 3 40-foot containers of batteries. We have a very large solar system on the roof of their building as well. And it's trading into the market and also supplying energy to Ikea. But none of that is possible if you can't actually put that energy back into the grid. And so this is the fundamental problem that eleXsys solves. With the Ikea project, we've established a 3-way benefit. The first benefit being a new asset class for investors.
So the rooftop solar system and batteries at Ikea is actually owned by a pension fund. It's a very attractive investment. The pension fund gets a secure, consistent income stream every year for 20 years.
The second one is savings to the customer, reduces their energy bill by at least 25 to 30% over the long term. And then the third is the environmental benefit.
We have a phenomenal team around us. At the moment, we're a group of roughly 50 staff.
About half of us are engineers, and most of those engineers are being employed on R&D today, developing products for increasing the hosting capacity on the network. We're also developing products for people to come off the grid and be sufficient in their own renewable energy. We are putting a significant effort into developing microgrid software to enable small townships or single customers to come completely off-grid with completely renewable energy only. Without products like eleXsys and other technological developments, the world will not meet its 2050 net zero carbon targets.
eleXsys is a critical part of speeding up decarbonization of the electricity grid globally.
We are an established power electronics technology company headquartered in Brisbane with offices in Singapore, the UK and North America. Commercial operations in solar started in 2015 and eleXsys technology commercialisation in 2020. In 2019, we were the recipient of the Startup Energy Transition Award in the Smart Grids category from the German Energy Agency and World Energy Council out of 450 global applicants. To produce energy in the most economically effective way, rooftop solar, we need to solve a key problem. Our electricity networks were designed over 100 years ago for one-way power flow. Lots of solar means lots of power flowing back the other way, causing voltage problems. So what's the solution? To enable the two-way flow of power and thereby increase the bandwidth of the grid to allow the use of much more clean energy, we can either spend lots of money on network infrastructure upgrades, or solar is simply stopped from exporting to the grid. Or we can use eleXsys. What is eleXsys? eleXsys combines hardware, silicon carbide semiconductors, and artificial intelligence-based software to manage the stability and resilience of distributed solar and wind generation. It unlocks the full potential of electricity networks, ensuring the most efficient, lowest cost delivery of clean energy and grid stability services. Incorporating an integrated solar, battery, and energy management storage system, underutilized rooftops are transformed into revenue-generating clean energy power stations. With grid forming capability, eleXsys can also be configured for economically viable off-grid applications, replacing diesel-based microgrids. What makes eleXsys unique is that we offer a single solution, bundling the full suite of renewable integration technologies, whereas our competition only provide the individual features. There are no other players offering the complete range of functionality around volt, VAR, microgrid, and battery management. The most efficient way to bundle and deploy our technology is to retain ownership of actual eleXsys units, while offering the applications that eleXsys provides under a software as a service model. With an initial focus on commercial and industrial customers, we offer them microgrids as a service, voltage management as a service, and battery as a service, each addressing our particular client's needs and objectives. We can also support demand management to overcome connection agreement limits and offer full off-grid capability to remove the reliance on expensive diesel fuel, and we support network operators directly to improve power quality and enable utilities to grow transmission and solar and wind generation distribution hosting capacities. So how do we make money? Our revenue model is split into three categories: the mass model, the BAS model, and the voltage management as a service model. Two common characteristics: there's an upfront fee and long-term service fees. Each category has a classic upfront construction revenue portion, similar to a development fee, or what some might know as an EPC fee, in addition to a service fee from the services provided by eleXsys. Important to note, as I mentioned before, we do not sell the eleXsys devices. They are provided on a service basis only over 5 to 20 years, so they stay on our balance sheet. An example of the microgrid as a service is eleXsys integrated into a battery energy storage system to perform the charge and discharge functions, market trading algorithms for which we are paid a fee over 20 years. Where we are developing the project ourselves, we would also receive this upfront fee. For voltage management as a service, which is best applied to smaller scale commercial solar that has been curtailed or not allowed to connect to the grid, eleXsys is installed on a no cost to the customer basis, and a fee is charged based on the amount of revenue from export of electricity that eleXsys unlocks. In order to scale, we are partnering with companies that are already in the energy space, overlaying a master license arrangement, where this master licensee can also be the project development partner and as such would share in that development fee and the recurring fee. We're currently working with Ikea Australia to transform their sites into clean energy generators. Our flagship project is set for construction next month. A large-scale solar and battery microgrid on Ikea's Adelaide site is pictured here on the left-hand side of the screen. Ikea has over 350 sites globally and at least 10 within Australia for which we could integrate eleXsys and our microgrid model. The inclusion of our eleXsys technology is the critical link that makes the Ikea project so innovative and world-leading. We ensure certainty of revenue streams from the export of surplus solar energy and grid stability services, removing the risk of curtailment by electricity network operators. From a technical standpoint, eleXsys is enabling a significantly larger solar system at 1.2 megawatts and a battery energy storage system of 3.4 megawatt hours. That would not be possible without eleXsys. Our solution enables the move to installing many more of these microgrids required to transition grids to 100% renewable. eleXsys is also performing the functions of charging and discharging the battery from the solar and grid and the energy trading algorithms and controls for frequency and spot market trading. From an economic standpoint, this model creates a new asset class for investors looking to invest in the grid of the future, projects that can safely, securely, and reliably export surplus clean energy into urban networks. It provides attractive returns, and with this comes significant finance to enable a further replication of these microgrids across CNI sites globally. By attracting third-party finance, commercial building owners now also have the option to utilise their own infrastructure to generate cheap, clean energy without using their own capital. The microgrid in Adelaide, with eleXsys, creates a unique solar generation and energy storage opportunity and enables decentralised generation more broadly. It sets the foundation for a sustainable new energy model for Australia that will play an important role in Australia's energy mix over the coming years. From an environmental standpoint, stage 2 will see the installation of a wooden framed solar carport and potentially a hydroelectrolyser. This will see the site become 100% powered from renewables and then also pushing significant excess renewable energy back into the grid. while at the same time providing essential stability services to a more and more distributed grid here in Adelaide. We're partnering with Ikea to replicate this microgrid model across their additional sites and look forward to playing a big part in enabling Ikea to achieve their aspirational and world-leading decarbonisation targets. Further to this, eleXsys will also be employed in many thousands of C&I sites globally for those companies supporting the transition to a 100% clean, decarbonised grid. Our commercialisation includes 3 key elements. We currently own 6 patent families covering our technology, with the intention of continuing to develop patents as we grow. Funding, our present offer is a pre-IPO investment at a discount to the current valuation. We are targeting a pre-IPO funding of $5 million, of which we have already raised $2.5 million in the last 2 months. And we are targeting a listing on the London Stock Exchange alternative investment market in the second quarter of 2021. This funding will go towards our 24-month priorities. There is a global consensus that rooftop solar is the cheapest form of energy. However, limitations of a one-way grid mean that we cannot fully exploit this opportunity without technology that removes this barrier and business models that monetize the unlocked energy potential. Participating in a company that has solved this problem and is already employing its technology to revolutionize world electricity grids is what we are offering investors, and to come in at a stage before the expected significant growth trajectory begins. I'll leave you with a few facts to encapsulate the potential for eleXsys Energy. Australia alone has the potential to power itself completely with solar off existing rooftops. According to the RE100 Climate Group, companies in the commercial and industrial sector account for around half of the world's end of use of electricity. And so we should start with the C&I rooftops in major metropolitan areas. Many thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan. Are there any questions from anyone in the audience in Monaco?
Thank you for the very interesting presentation. To understand the business model, so right now your launching customer, they own the locations, the rooftops, as well as they will get the energy benefits. Going forward, is that the business? I didn't quite understand. Will you also try to, in your little image, you were assuming that there's a lot of roofs available, but are you also planning to use rooftops where there is a difference between the one who owns the roof and who gets the benefit of the energy?
Yes, well, in that model, that's already happening. So in the model, Ikea will be sold under a PPA electricity from the solar, and then the batteries will be feeding into the grid. The owner of the system is actually a pension fund, so they'll be getting the returns from the battery trading into the grid. Ikea receives the benefit through about 25% reduction in electricity cost.
Right, because that was going to be my question. How do you convince people? So they get a discount, but they don't get the full benefit of the energy.
Yeah, they get the discount, and then they also obviously get the environmental benefits. But it can work in other ways as well. If they want to own the system, they can own the system, in which case they would get the full returns. But they'd obviously have to put the capital in to do that.
And you said you're in different countries. So you're currently in Australia, but you have offices, you mentioned, in Singapore and in the US. So how are you rolling this out?
Well, we're looking for, and we've signed some already, what we call master licensees. And they're essentially usually sort of companies that are in the similar energy space, large companies. What we're doing is we're essentially licensing them to use our technology, and also the know-how around how we wrap that up in a business model, for which they receive a development fee, if you like, and then also they will receive a share of the revenue from the services that eleXsys provides.
Right. Can you say something, because in the booklet it didn't say anything about your revenue levels at this point in time. Can you say something about installed base or revenue levels at this point?
Now, the revenue is about $12 million US for last financial year, but that is predominantly made up of what was our traditional business, which is C&I solar only. We've been doing that since 2015, and we sort of used that business and that revenue to fund the development of the technology, and also to better understand the business models we were developing to employ the technology. So going forward, the revenue is expected to more reflect the microgrid as a service, like this Ikea model, which sort of range between $5 and $10 million per project.
Okay, you mean like Ikea is one project?
That's one project,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry.
No problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. Unfortunately, that's us out of time for you today. Thank you very much. And some good questions there. Some more come through online, but unfortunately we did run out of time. So maybe connect with those people via the platform. So
okay, thank you very much, Connor. Bye.
Thank you. So next up, we have Vincent Schiandri, CEO of METRON, who'll be joining us now on stage.
Thank you. Can I have the presentation? Yes, thank you. So, thank you very much. I'm Vincent Schiandri. I'm the founder and CEO of METRON. And METRON is a company I created 6 years ago that is helping industrials to reduce their energy consumption. You have to know that industry, factories, are consuming more than half of the energy produced on the planet. And of course, their impact on the environment is huge. Transforming this energy consumption, transforming this impact is a daily challenge for those factories. They have invested since sometimes tens, 50, 100 years on their assets and how to transform themselves and be at the level of the challenge of this century is one of their main focus. So at METRON, we've been working at tackling this challenge, those two challenges, sorry. The first one is how to make the factory of today become the factory of the future. We cannot erase the factory of today and make them smart or connected. We need to work from the existing asset and making those factories evolve. So it's by being able to collect all the information on the factory and being able to use those data to propose new solutions, new leverages. And the second challenge for them is how to be able to reduce their energy consumption, reduce their impact on the planet, and having a payback of those investments in a very short term. So being able to participate to this energy transition, but also being able to use that tool as a cost reduction, as a new way of being productive. So we designed a platform which is called Metroneva Energy Virtual Assistant that you set on the site that is being able to connect itself to all the different machines, all the different systems on the factory. When I say connecting to, it means that without the usage, without the need of installing new hardware, new meters or new systems, you really connect to the factory and to all the existing data already on site. So you're leveraging the existing asset. And thanks to those data, we're being able to cross this with two other subjects that are interesting, which is statistical analysis, what we call machine learning, and the other part, which is a little bit newer, which is called ontologies. Ontologies are knowledge bases. All the knowledge you can have on a domain, which is engineering, thermodynamics, all the information that we can collect and bring it back into the factory and link it with the data that we collect. So if you do this in real time, you're able to propose to the factory manager or to the energy manager on site new leverages, new way of analyzing its factory. So how does that work? If you take an existing factory like this one, a very old furnace, its name is Arco, it's in Colombia, It's 68 years old, this furnace. So you need to be able to connect to this kind of very old and very complex asset, get all the information, and then being able to optimize it. So that's a huge challenge. So how do we do this? We've been able to connect ourselves on the system, on the ARCO system. So it's being able to connect itself to the PLCs, to the automation system of that factory. And once we get all this information, huge amount of information, we've been able to analyze and understand how this system was working and how to optimize it in real time. So what does it mean? How can we optimize this in real time? It means starting and stopping the smelting of this furnace at the right moment, depending on all the different conditions. So the time of smelting of metal you have inside, the time of smelting itself, and all the different impacts that you can have around this melting. And the idea is that if you do this in real time, if you modelize this furnace, if you do the digital twin of this furnace, you're being able to take action before or learn from those actions into time. So this is how you test, learn, and then optimize the asset in real time. So we've been doing this in all the different kind of factories, all the different industries in the planet. We've been able to work on food and beverage, cement, many types of industries. We have hundreds of clients. We have big groups also that are deploying this solution in many different factories inside the group. But our vision extends that. Our vision is a little bit in link with the first presentation, which say the energy is not just the consumption of the factory. It's about the whole ecosystem. And being able to understand the energy I'm using inside the factory is also being able to be more flexible and maybe to improve my consumption, but also to redistribute energy at some point. So linking with other solutions that will help me to be part of that ecosystem. And factories want to be part of that ecosystem, and it's a challenge for them. So in the last 6 years, we've been able to build a huge network. METRON is about 140 employees around the world. 80 of those employees are based in Paris. And in Paris, we have all the research department and AI team. The rest of the other subsidiaries we have are operation centers of our solution for industrials around the planet. So we're very active in Latin America and in Southeast Asia, and also in Middle East. We have investors such as BNP Paribas, so directly the bank inside METRON, and also companies like NTT Docomo or Statkraft Venture that have invested in the Series A of METRON of 18 million euros. Today we are raising 30 million euros, where 12 million euros have already been raised, and we're searching for around 20 million more for the scaling of this of the company. We have two pillars in our sales strategy. The first one is to address directly big industrial groups. So we have a corporate agreement with a group called Danone, for example, where we are deploying our technology in 200 factories around the world. And we are doing this kind of agreement with many other big industrials. And the second pillar of our market strategy is to do partnerships with facility managers and utilities. So we have, for example, a partnership in France with a company called Dalkia, which is a subsidiary of the EDF Group, where Dalkia is selling and promoting our technology all around France to their industrial. Dalkia has 2,300 industrial clients, and Dalkia is proposing our technology to them. We have the same kind of agreement in Italy with Edison, with SK Gas in South Korea, and with NTT facilities in Japan. And we have more than 20 alliances like this in negotiation right now in all the different countries. So we have those two pillars: global agreements with big corporates and alliances on local regions. So that help us to secure for the next 12 months, more than 8 million euros of annual recurring revenues, and we've been doubling those revenues each year since the beginning of METRON. So today, METRON is addressing this industrial market, but as I presented, our vision is to link this market to the territory. So we have those partnerships with those facility managers or utilities, and we are now discussing with them how to expand this solution to big facilities like hospitals or data centers, for example, which are sites that are already in their portfolio and where we have a pretty similar way of consuming energy inside those big assets. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, it will be a pleasure for me to respond to them.
Yes, please come up.
Hello. I do have a question. How do you get your revenues? Do you sell software as a service to industrials? Do you allow licenses?
We sell software as a service. So our revenues are all recurring and 100% based on software as a service. So we're not selling, for example, energy performance contracting or other types of revenues like that. It's pure platform and software revenues.
And my second question is, I suppose by selling, based on your answer, I suppose by selling software as a service, you collect data for all those clients. How do you secure such data?
That's one of the main subject for those industrials. Actually, 6 years ago, that was a no-go for most of those industrials, and now slowly they are opening to share those information, not to share, but using those information. So we have on our platform, our architecture is a dedicated instance, so it's like a seal world for them in order to have their data on a dedicated cloud where we work with the IT departments of those groups. Generally, they are big groups, and we respect the different constraints for them. So, for example, Danone has a dedicated environment in the cloud environment they choose, AWS, Google Cloud, or whatever they have in terms of agreement with inside the group. And inside this environment, we deploy our solution into this dedicated cloud for them. So inside this dedicated cloud, you will have many factories, 200 factories inside this cloud. So you can share information within the factories for benchmarking, best practices, etc., but not outside this instance. So it's completely sealed for them.
Thank you so much. I do have another question based on your answer. So we're here at CleanEquity. Your product saves energy, but then the database consumes energy, and your computers will process such data.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, are you a clean equity company?
Yeah, of course. There's two things we need to know on that, and that's a great question. First of all, our job is to make optimized software. So we are working on having the lowest carbon footprint on our algorithm and our technology. That's the first part. So we're working every day to have less impact. That's on our side. On the other side, you have to know that those data already exist. They are stored. Most of them, they are stored in clouds, in data lakes, not used. So the question is, what's the biggest impact? Data that are already here, produced, and will be generated, but not used. So it's generated, but not used. So it's stored for nothing and generates carbon footprint for nothing. Or using this data to try to reduce this impact in the end. So that's That's a circle, that's a complex question. In the end, we try to reduce that, make the most of this existing asset, make the most of this existing data. This is why we say we don't install new hardware or install new data points. We use what's existing. And that was the philosophy of Metron since the beginning, which sometimes makes it hard to work, because sometimes you have zones where you are completely blind, but you start to work on zones where you have already information. You make optimizations on this part, and the optimization that generates money, but also a reduction of energy and carbon footprint, you use it for maybe investing in new hardware for this perimeter that is where you're blind, for example. So the idea is to make our clients on a road to carbon neutrality when they want to, but also making them aware of what they're consuming. Most of them are aware on the big numbers, but not on the detail on what's consuming energy every day and where can we tackle the subject. The payback of our solution is for most of our clients in less than 12 months. It means that with the technology, we already very quickly are able to identify a lot of savings. And this generates a lot of value for them. And then they can invest into better machines, new monitoring, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to start from the data, but they exist already. We don't work on non-existing data. So we try to lower this carbon footprint of those existing data, if that responds to your question.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, is it okay to come to the microphone, please, so the people online can also hear the question? Is it okay if you come to the microphone, please, to ask the question?
The choreography. The company was founded in 2013, I read in the information. And when I look at patent status, I see patent strategies currently being drafted with IP experts. How do you reconcile having been on for 7 years and just now drafting a patent strategy? Well, and this leads me to ask you about competition then.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. The first investors of Metron in 2018 have helped us to identify whether there was something that can be patented in the end with the technology or not. We started first by selling the technology and accelerating on the market before anything, because what's about competition is not just the technology, it's taking the market quickly. And we've been abroad since 2014, so very quickly addressing the market and then looking back at what was able to be patented. And in the end, not so much as we're speaking about software. So the uniqueness of the technology is based on a part of the technology explained, which is ontologies. Ontologies are knowledge bases. More sites we have, more knowledge we integrate into that, makes it very high, the barrier for the other companies to get to what we do. We have in our database digital twins of furnace, clinkerization, many different processes inside the industry. So today, to be able to get this and to get the savings we get in a very short term is very difficult for an external company. We have competition, of course, but one of our biggest competitors is Siemens or Schneider, and generally they come to see us and they ask us how we can connect our technology together, because they have all the information, meters, etc. And our knowledge base that we create is pretty unique today. So with our investors today, we have chosen the strategy to focus on this knowledge base and building up this knowledge base as huge as possible in order to be difficult to take advantage on us on the market. So going fast to the different regions and taking the market as fast as possible, and also being able to scale our knowledge base into this. Because if I go and try to patent statistical analysis, There is nothing here that can be in a patent, or it's very easy to copy in the end. So the uniqueness resides in this knowledge bases today.
Thank you. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you very much. I'll have to move on.
Thank you.
Now. Thank you. So moving on, next we have joining us from Israel, Doven Meisdorf of StoreDot.
Hi, hello everybody. Good afternoon. No, for you it's still not noon. 12:30 here, only 1 hour ahead. StoreDot is a company, startup in Israel that develops materials and batteries that can charge in 5 minutes. So in the next 20 minutes or so, we'll go through the overview of StoreDot. So the experience of a driver in the last 100 years hasn't really changed much. And this is a good thing, because somehow back in the 1920s, the idea that in 5 minutes or less you can actually stop at refueling, and now it's a recharging station, and continue for another 300 or 400 miles, this idea is very appealing and is actually something that we want to maintain. So if we keep the driver experience the same, then the adoption of electric vehicle can dramatically improve. So we are talking about a system that includes our battery. And our battery is a lithium-ion battery, but as I mentioned, with innovative and new materials. So we are part of, I would say, a mega revolution that is like a perfect storm of several things that are happening in the automotive space, starting from the connected vehicle, shared transportation, and the autonomous vehicle. All of them require fast charging, and of course, electrification is a big part of this transition. So StoreDot really is aiming for the heart of these transitions. So it's important to understand the issue of range anxiety, where people are really not buying the electric vehicle because they are worried that they'll get stuck on the highway. There is also a new thing that is called the charging anxiety, where you can actually get to a charging station, but there's going to be a long line, or there won't be enough stations, and you'll spend a lot of time there that you didn't plan on your trip. So it's important to understand that ultra-fast charging is only possible with innovative battery technology, meaning you cannot take an existing lithium-ion battery and just say, okay, I'm going to charge it in 5 minutes. You do need to make serious modifications, and the most important one is to eliminate the graphite in the battery, because in graphite, if you all remember, let's say Samsung Note 7 stories from a few years back, graphite is a safety concern when you are trying to charge it fast. So about StoreDot, we started in 2012, and we've raised to date 130 million. We are 120 people. The 35 of them are PhDs in various areas of chemistry, organic chemistry and electrochemistry, as well as material scientists, quantum physics, and so forth. So we are very heavy on the science of the battery, because we really need to reinvent the way that the battery is being designed. So we do have a comprehensive IP portfolio. 57 patents are already granted worldwide, including in China, where we currently manufacture our batteries, of course in the US, but also in several states in Europe. and there are additional 48 patents in process. We also have a very strong investor base, starting from TDK, who owns ATL. These are the manufacturing facilities in China. TDK is actually in Tokyo, but the manufacturing facilities in China. Daimler, which is Mercedes, that we are all familiar with, is our EV lead investor. Samsung were actually our first investor that looked at the issue of batteries. And recently we have acquired BP, British Petroleum, as a strategic investor because of the transition and repurposing of the charging stations, of the forecourts that are currently gas stations to become charging stations. So some interesting milestones throughout the years is that we went through these 3 rounds of financing. In 2018, we basically signed a manufacturing kind of joint venture with Eve Energy. It's a medium-sized manufacturer in China. Last year, we demonstrated the first time ever a scooter that charges in 5 minutes. And then Bloomberg has recognized StoreDot as one of the most innovative companies in the area of new economy finance on the route to zero emission. And a few months ago, we demonstrated how we can also take this technology and charge a drone in 5 minutes, which can really change the cost of ownership and the operational model of drones, because you do not need the man in the loop and you do not need extra batteries. It's an autonomous operation. You land from point A to point B, you land, you charge at point B, and you can continue your mission to point C. So there's no need to go back to the base in order to recharge or replace batteries. So we are building this ultra-fast charging future with breakthrough materials that have never been used before. And this is why we are getting so many of these patents we filed, because it's very similar to how you would develop a drug or in a pharmaceutical industry where you have a new molecule. So we find this particular molecule that reduces the resistance, or that allows us to move the ions faster. So we actually can get a patent on the materials themselves. So it's actually a combination of several domains that actually enables us to reach this performance of 5-minute charging. We start with organic chemistry, meaning we develop all the additives and the binders and the electrolytes that can actually support the 5-minute high power charge. We combine this with nanotechnology, because if you want to insert the ions, the lithium ions, you need to insert them into the active material. In our case, it can be silicon or tin or germanium. These are all metalloids that are under column 4, under carbon, that are known to have high diffusion of the ions, but they also have issue with swelling. So, it inflates and deflates during the cycles of the charging and discharging. So we combine the nanotechnology with the organic chemistry in order to build a structure that is more robust and can sustain the changes in the volume during the cycles. And we combine that also with data science. So we have a very strong team that uploads all our data to the cloud, because we have thousands of experiments going on in parallel, and we need to sift through this information and pinpoint those formulations that have the best probability or best potential to actually improve the battery as we move from generation to the other. And this is how we can identify the correlation between, let's say, number of cycles and the formulation that went into the specific battery. So if you look at the map of our investors that are our partners as well. You can see that we are moving from the, on the x-axis, from the infrastructure and manufacturing side to consumer brands. And this is going from TDK to Samsung or from BP to Daimler. And on the y-axis, we are moving from a small form factor design of the battery that we have today. We are actually already shipping samples, for example, for drones or for power banks or for smartphones, moving into the EV space with the BP and Daimler in a couple of years. So why is StoreDot unique? First of all, we are very focused on fast charging, and this has been our vision from day one. So even though you will find some people that are also saying that they are doing fast charging, they are not primarily focused on that. So eliminating the range anxiety with this experience of ultra fast charging is our vision, and this is what we focus on. Our approach is very holistic, so we don't develop only one material, or let's say we are not only changing an anode or a cathode or the electrolyte. We are basically developing all the system from the ground up in order to make sure that nothing breaks and there's no, bottleneck in one of the components. So we have a very rapid prototyping with a closed loop. So going from a molecule to a full functioning battery in one facility here in our labs in Herzliya in Israel takes us only a week or two to actually know if a particular molecule is actually performing its function in the battery. We also built here the state-of-the-art R&D facility with the nanotechnology lab, the organic synthesis lab, the data science that I've mentioned, the scale-up facilities, and so forth. We are using traditional manufacturing lines in our production, so this is a big plus as well. So here I explain why we are moving to silicon, but I don't have time to get too much into this scientific perspective here, but if anybody is interested after the meeting, I can share more materials about the silicon. So in terms of our roadmap, we are sampling now this, what I said, called the small form factor that is designed for the drones. We are not planning huge volume here, but this is like a market entry. It shows our capability in the mass production. It shows the unit cost and the economics around the technology. And we are moving to a second generation called Gen 2 in a couple of years, where this will already be designed for a pack of a battery, an electric vehicle, such as a Tesla or an AMG car or some other partner that we might be working with. So in terms of the competitive map, you see that there are many players. Some are startups, some of them are large companies, some of them are the OEM that are building the vehicle. StoreDot is unique in this sense that nobody really focuses, as I mentioned, on the ultra-fast charging, and basically delivers already a solution for 5-minute charging. So this is not just a vision, this is actually much closer than people think. Very soon, cars will be able to charge in 5 minutes. By the way, not all cars, your phones, your toys, power tools, drones, what have you. 5-minute charging is within reach. It's working in our labs, it's in production, and it's something that would really change the world as we know it in terms of energy storage. We are also designing a manufacturing facility We call it the 1 giga facility. This facility is designed to deliver about 30,000 batteries for cars in the coming 3 years. Where the idea is that once we ramp this facility, it can also serve as the next generation R&D plan as we move to future generations beyond Gen 2. So just to summarize, we have a battery that fully charges in 5 minutes. We are providing innovation for the charging and the formation of the battery. We do use proprietary organic compounds that are protected, and we use scalable production and manufacturing lines in order to produce our battery. So as I mentioned, the future of ultra-fast charging is closer than we think. Thank you very much. I'll be able to answer maybe a couple of questions if we have time.
Yep, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I mean, it's very impressive how much money you've raised so far, and I understand you are selling prototypes, but not in full-scale commercialization yet, which I would understand that with the complex business model you're pursuing, or the complex system you're pursuing. I have 2 questions. One is, could you say something about the toxicity and sustainability and health elements of the materials that you use, both in the nano space, but as well as the organic compound space? And the other part is, can you elaborate a bit on how you envision the actual integration, because you're taking such a holistic approach, but it means that everything needs to be changed at the same time. So I'd like to get your view on those 2 points, please.
Right. So toxicity is a big issue for lithium-ion batteries. It is still a lithium-ion battery. The materials that we add, the organic materials, are not toxic and they are fully biodegradable. But I cannot say that the battery as a whole is a green battery. This is still, there is still lithium, there is still some cobalt that we are trying to eliminate, same way that Tesla is working on. And we are using, I would say, silicon that is not so toxic, but we do have nickel, for example, in the cathode. So I would say overall, we are facing similar challenges to any traditional lithium-ion batteries in terms of second life and recyclability and all that. In terms of integration, you're absolutely right, and we're already engaged with the EV makers in order to design our cells so it would be able to cool, which is number one challenge in the pack is the cooling, which will be able to cool during the high power charging, and also to be able to integrate well into the BMS, the battery management system. I did not go through those slides, but definitely this is something that is built into the design of these cells.
Good morning, Giuseppe Ambrosio speaking. Thank you for your presentation. I have a question and a parallel that I would like to propose to you and to the audience. There is a law called Moore's Law, and I don't know whether you are familiar with it, but basically it's based on an empirical observation that the computing power doubles every 2 years or a fixed in time. The parallel I would like to make is the 5 minutes that you mentioned. Is there any equivalent as a key figure to monitor in your business and your outlook in relation to the charge time and how the projections will reduce this charging time in the next years? Because to me this is really the key element to monitor. If you ask me as a finance person, which is the one element that can determine the success of your business is really the charging time. I don't know, that's my opinion. I'm not an expert, but I wanted to share this with you and the audience. Thank you.
So Moore's Law, yes, I'm very familiar with that. Actually, my PhD dealt with that, and my background is the semiconductor industry. In the battery space, you have about 5 to 7% year-on-year improvement in the energy density. And recently, in the last 3 years, we've also seen improvements in charging times. That is also dramatic. There is no person that actually got a label for this trend, but this trend exists. But what StoreDot is trying to do is actually having a leap here in the charging times and move from half an hour to an hour, which is today's range for best in class for graphite-based batteries, to 5 minutes in one. And this is where our value proposition here. We are not saying we should wait now 20 years to be able to do 5 minutes. We are doing 5 minutes today. It will take time because of the infrastructure issues and the charging infrastructures that needs to be built. And most likely, even though our technology can do 5 minutes, our first implementation in the vehicle will be 10 minutes. And that is because of the 350 kilowatt best-in-class charging station that we see from ChargePoint, for example, or others. We won't have the 1 megawatt charging station in the near future that is required for a full, let's say, Tesla 100 kilowatt hour battery to be charged in 5 minutes. You need roughly 1 megawatt. We won't have it in the next 3-4 years. So to answer your question, definitely there is this trend. What StoreDot is trying to do is to leap the charging times.
Thank you. Thank you, Don, for joining us. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So next up, I'd like to invite to join us on stage, we have Mårten Helberg from Sweden, CEO of OrganoClick.
So, very nice to be here in Monaco. Very happy to be outside Stockholm, where I spent the last 6 months during this pandemic. So very happy to be out meeting some people again. My name is Mårten Helberg. I'm the CEO and co-founder of OrganoClick. And 14 years ago, I met 2 Swedish professors. They had already in the mid-90s started to understand that this will become a problem. Today, we know that 8 million tons of plastics waste are released into the oceans annually, and hundreds of thousands of toxic chemicals are also released. They had already then, in the mid-90s, started to study how different natural chemistries occurs. What is the chemistry behind a tree becoming so strong? Or why does some leaves become water repellent? Or what is the fundamental chemistry behind some trees burning less good than other trees? What are the molecules that is actually doing this? And they had a really clear mission, and that was to be able to replace fossil plastics and synthetic chemicals with natural chemistries. This really appealed to me. I was a master in biotechnology at the time, but I was in the end of my canoeing career. I was actually part of the Swedish national team in canoeing and Olympic team, and had been traveling the world for the last 12 years, really paddling in this type of rivers, seeing this problem in person. So this was really personal to me. So we started off with actually an academic formula. It was a chemical formula that we started with, where they could modify cellulose with different organic molecules. Click on molecules to the surface of the cellulose, which is the fundamental part of wood, paper, textiles like cotton, hemp, linen, and so on. And by clicking on these molecules, change the surface of the cellulose in order to make it water repellent, stronger, fire retardant, and so on. Our problem was just we didn't really know where this would fit in an industrial setting. So coming from this, I started to walk around in the paper industry. We have a big such in Sweden. Packaging industry is also very big in Sweden, as well as the wood industry. We also visited textile plants, looking at where do you have problems which we can solve with our technology. And just making a very quick play it forward, it took us 6 years until we first could launch the first product. That was in 2012. But today, after 14 years, we are now operating in 3 different areas where we have solved big chemical problems. We have a new wood protection technology, which we launched in 2012, where we are replacing biocides and heavy metals with natural molecules that you can find actually in rice husk, but also in tropical hardwood, which you can change the property of the wood. The second area where we're working on is to replace plastics and plastic polymers in non-woven materials, for example, in this type of mouth covers that we have on today. There's a lot of plastics in these type of products, and this is an area where we found different biopolymers derived from, for example, orange peels, oat husk, wheat bran, shrimp shells, which can mimic the plastic polymers that are used in this type of textiles. And the third area is to make textiles water repellent, where traditionally a group of chemicals called PFAS or fluorocarbons have been used. Actually, the European Commission just 2 weeks ago launched a new initiative to ban the PFAS completely. So this is for us, of course, a very big driver now in selling our type of technology and our products in this area. Today we are a company. We have a producing company. We have set up a factory in north of Stockholm where we have a capacity of producing 10,000 tons of our chemicals per year. Last year we produced 2,000 tons, so we have an overcapacity of factor 5, so we can grow a lot without having to invest any more in manufacturing capabilities. We have been growing quite rapidly during the last 5 years, but I think also coming from the legislative point of view that we will see an even more rapid increase in growth during the next 5-10 years. And we almost reached an EBITDA positive result last year. And I'm actually very pleased to be able to say that second quarter this year was our best quarter ever. We reached a net positive result, and we actually could grow our business even in this really difficult time. So that was very happy to be able to say that. Today we have the synergistics effect between our business areas is the R&D. We use the same type of chemistry on wood, textiles, paper, also in the production because we use the same type of production system, but we have set up different sales organization targeting various segments where our chemistries can be used. So we work today within the wood area where we have our technology to replace heavy metals and biocides. We have a coating and maintenance products area where we are targeting textile companies. We work towards more technical textiles and non-woven, and also in the biocomposite area. If I start with the wood, which was the first technology which we commercialized, we actually use natural silicon minerals that can be found in rice husk. So the husk of the rice, there exists a lot of silicon which protects the rice within it. And these type of molecules we have started to use to modify the wood in order to get a physical barrier towards the rot fungus instead of being a toxin that is used today. Only in Sweden we use 5,000 tons of heavy metals and biocides to impregnate wood per year. It's a lot of heavy metals that is used. And this is actually leached out after a while. And if you look at what the chemistry is behind that, that is very, very toxic chemistry. And this is exactly what we're targeting within this area. Here we are now collaborating with Scandinavia's largest wood treatment company, actually one of the largest in Europe as well, which are producing organowood to supply different building suppliers and distributors throughout Scandinavia. And now we're also entering the German, the UK, and the Dutch market. And it can be things like this that is built with organowood. This is in Bavaria, in Bodensee, where they have built this type of building, completely in organowood. It can be this also in Germany. Max Planck Institute used our wood, and that we feel is a very nice institute, of course, to be recognized with. In Sweden, in Stockholm, Gothenburg, and Malmö, the governments are only using organowood now to build schools because they want to have toxic-free school environments. So this is also an area where we're very strong today and are growing. When I go into the next area where we replace plastics, this is, even though this is a later stage for us, we launched our first products in 2018, I believe that this may be the biggest area for us within the next 3 to 5 years. And non-woven, it is something in between paper and textiles. You make it with a machine that is a little bit like a paper machine, but you use soft fibers, textile fibers, to create materials that is used, for example, in mouth covers. But it can also be surgical gowns, napkins, feminine care products, diapers, and also in areas such as agricultural mulch films that you use on big farmlands. And in order to bind these non-woven materials together, you use plastic polymers. So you have cellulose fibers, which are renewable and biodegradable, and you use plastic binders in order to bind the fibers together. So this means that this agricultural mulch film, for example, when that breaks down on the farm, there will be microplastics coming out from the mulch film that goes down into the earth. This mulch film contains about 10% plastics, and every year, there was a report quite recently launched, but every year in Europe, 15,000 tons of microplastics are going down into the earth due to the mulch films that you put on the farmland. And this is accumulating in our earth, so it's there every year, 15,000 tons every year from agricultural mulch films. That's quite an impressive number, isn't it? And it's completely stupid when you think about it. So what we have done here, we have looked at different biopolymers that can mimic these type of plastic polymers that is currently used. And we launched this product in 2018. We are now in 3 industrial products that is produced by some of the largest non-woven companies in the world. And what really spurred the interest in our technology was the plastic directive launched by the European Union in 2019, which now says that the plastics from in consumer products shall go away during the next 5 to 10 years. So this is something for us, of course, a game changer, because now it's not only about the environmental aspect, now it's also legislative that is coming into force. And if you look what we're doing here right now, I mentioned we have actually now 3 industrial customers that have launched products with our technology. We have now 8 customer projects in late development stages, and there are about 20 large corporations globally that is using binders to produce non-wovens. So it's a quite limited number of large corporations, and these are the ones that we are targeting, of course. We also use the same binder technology in biocomposites. So there the binders are mixed with cellulose fibers and 3D formed by different actors to produce materials like packaging, but it can also be building materials. And I will just briefly go through one of the examples. This is one of the larger players within acoustic panels or sound absorbing panels that is put on walls. One of the fastest growing actors within this area in the world. And they launched a product with our binder technology 2 years ago. And it was quite funny, but during the hearings of the big tech CEOs of the Congress just a few months ago, behind Sundar Pichai, the wall was covered with our sound absorbing panels or our technology. So we were quite happy to see that this is used in very interesting environments, also now in Palo Alto. If we go into the financials, as I mentioned, we've been growing with in average 33% per year during the last 5 years. We believe we can pick up the speed even more. So this will be 9 million euro in 2019, but we've been growing quite a lot since then. We have also, due to the change in product mix and also because we have grown and have more scale, been able to improve our gross margins during these years. At the same time, been able to keep the cost on a quite the same level during the last 3 years, which have then made our EBITDA go very rapidly towards profitability. And as I mentioned, the last quarter now, we had the first quarter with net profit ever, so that was a very big milestone for us. Right now, we're focusing on internationalization. We are entering the German market, the UK market for organowood, focusing a lot on these binder projects because there we can really create a lot of revenue and also create a lot of impact, replacing a lot of plastics. And as well as working with our coatings business that is targeting the same market as the wood business. So that was a little bit what I wanted to tell you about, and hope you want to join us in our journey to create the nature and water free from plastic pollution and chemical pollution. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Morten from the audience? Could you tell us a bit about future products, please, and the next few years?
Well, I think for us, the big area which we are really targeting right now is the non-woven business, and this is really due to the fact that the EU Plastic Directive now have are targeting certain of these areas. For example, wet wipes. Wet wipes is an area where the plastics needs to be phased out within the next number of years, and here we have solutions to replace these plastic binders. And the binder market is a niche market, but it's worth about 400 million euro. But it's really interesting for us because it doesn't attract so much attention from bigger players. So for us, it's a very, very interesting niche market. And here we're completely unique. There are no one in the world that have developed bio-based and biodegradable binders for non-wovens. So this area is something that we're focusing a lot on right now.
Is the market for the time being, is it mostly European, or are you looking to expand more internationally?
No, I mean, it's globally by nature. If you look at the non-wovens companies, for example, I mean, big players within this area would be Kimberly-Clark, Procter & Gamble, Essity, Finnish Suomen, and Ahlstrom Munksjö. They are all global companies. So when we go towards one of these groups, they have factories all over the globe, and we have, of course, need to supply the different factories. We cannot just look at the European level.
Yeah, this is a venture capital kind of question. How do you see the future of the company? What's your ambition personally? Do you want to exit? Do you want to grow? Do you become listed? What's your view? Spot, buy, strategic?
Yeah, we want to grow, of course. We want to create a new big Swedish industrial company based on green chemistry. We have our first factory set up that was invested already in 2015. Now we're actually looking at expanding to a new facility as well. We don't need to put in a lot of capex actually in there because we can use existing industrial houses. We don't need to build a new house, which is normally a very big cost of the capex, but we instead buy tanks and this type of things. So for a factory producing 30 to 40,000 tons, the capex would be around 3 million euros. So it's not a very capital intensive setup of a factory.
Congratulations.
One more. Have you looked at biomimicry and fire retardants?
Sorry, can you?
Have you looked at biomimicry and fire retardants?
Fire retardants, absolutely. I mean, fire retardants are one of our field that we have specialized in. I didn't have the time to go into all the areas, but we have fire retardants for wood. So the wood that we're looking at here, it has it is fire classified, so you can build wood with which meets the classification that is required for building houses in wood. We also have fire retardant binders because we can use the same type of fire retardant molecules into our binder systems that goes into the non-woven business. There is quite a lot of non-woven applications which is used in insulation and this type of constructions where you need fire retardant classes as well. So we can combine the technologies in different ways to get certain type of products for our customers.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Morten. So for us in Monaco, that is lunch. We will be back at 13:30 Monaco time. See everyone then.